For nearly 5 years, I poured everything I had into a boutique company tucked in the heart of Aspen Falls. A mid-sized city known more for its mountain views than its tech industry. The company specialized in back-end systems for niche service providers, think fitness clubs, boutique gyms, training centers. It wasn't flashy work, but it was impactful, and I loved it. When I started, there were barely 8 employees. By the time I left, there were 15 of us, and the company had ballooned into the leading provider in the entire region, claiming close to 75% of the market. The services we offered had become essential, and we were growing faster than anyone could have predicted. I wasn't just part of the team, I was the glue. I handled everything. Day-to-day operations, HR and payroll, customer support, marketing strategy, employee scheduling, training programs, onboarding new clients, managing legacy systems, troubleshooting emergencies, and even stepping in to do tech support when someone on the dev team called out sick. You name it, I did it. And I loved it. Twice a year, I'd sit down with the owner, Grant Carver, the man who'd founded the company 10 years before I joined. Grant wasn't a bad guy. Charismatic, funny when he wanted to be, and honestly brilliant when it came to conceptual design. But he was also stubborn, territorial, and allergic to new ideas that didn't come from his own mouth. Still, those review meetings. Always glowing. 10 out of 10, he'd say, smiling over his reading glasses. You're the backbone of this place. So when bonuses were handed out that fall, and mine came in noticeably lower than my peers, some of whom I had trained myself, I was stunned. It wasn't about the number. It was about what it said. Confused, I approached Grant privately. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice light. I noticed my bonus was smaller than the others. I'm not upset. I just wanted to know, are they based on performance? And if so, what could I work on to qualify for more next time? He didn't even look up from his phone when he answered. They're not based on performance, he said flatly. You're just more replaceable than the others. I blinked. That was it. No sugarcoating. No explanation. Just that. You're more replaceable. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said, and I turned around and walked out of his office. That afternoon, I processed everyone's bonuses, including my own. I didn't sulk. I didn't cry. I just did the job like I always had. After finishing payroll, I stepped outside and called my spouse. I think I'm done, I said. My spouse didn't say, I told you so. Instead, they said, let's talk when you get home. That night, we sat on the balcony, wine in hand, the crisp Aspen Falls wind blowing through the railing. My spouse had 20 years of executive experience and more common sense than anyone I knew. We played out the scenarios. Every possible outcome, every risk, every reward. Take the vacation, they said. You've already got time off booked. Clear your head. Don't act out of anger. Act with intent. And that's exactly what I did. I worked one more day like nothing was wrong. Smiled through meetings. Crushed my inbox. Then I packed a suitcase and left town for 10 days of mountain air, rest, and plotting. Grant had no idea what was coming. While I was away on that 10-day mountain escape, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Work emails, Slack pings, calendar notifications, all the usual chaos I usually handled without blinking. This time, I ignored every one. The company had run like a Swiss watch for 5 years because I had kept every gear oiled. Without me, it jammed within days. Grant sent 3 messages in 5 days asking if I could quickly approve payroll from my phone or hop on a call to smooth out an onboarding issue. I didn't even open them. On the 11th day, I returned to the office with my resignation letter already printed. I waited until Friday, just before close. I wanted to make it clean, quiet, uninterruptible. I walked into Grant's office. He looked up, surprised, probably expecting me to apologize for not jumping in during vacation. Instead, I handed him the letter. His eyebrows lifted. You're resigning? I nodded. Effective immediately. I've completed all outstanding tasks, closed out client tickets, and transferred essential project notes to Sam and Lila. He blinked. We didn't discuss this. I smiled. No, we didn't. I walked out without another word. No drama. No blow up. Just intentional silence. And that silence, it hit harder than any outburst ever could. I knew what was coming next. The frantic emails, the questions, the realization of just how much I had been doing behind the scenes. The clients left hanging, the projects in limbo, the team too small and too green to pick up the slack. But that wasn't my problem anymore. The minute I got home, I started building. I spent the next 72 hours mapping out what would become my new company, Pulsecraft Systems. It would do everything the company did, but better. More agile, more client-friendly, fewer arbitrary limitations, no nickel and diming over simple feature requests, no outdated interfaces, and most importantly, no grant. The idea wasn't to steal clients. It was to offer a better choice, and let them come to me on their own. And they did. Within the first week, I heard from 2 former clients asking why my name had vanished from support threads. I didn't say much, just that I had moved on to a new opportunity. One asked directly, "Do you offer services now?" I answered, "Not yet. But I will soon." And I did. Within 6 weeks, Pulsecraft Systems had a website, pricing model, support infrastructure, and a legally filed business license. I didn't poach clients. I didn't undercut anyone publicly. I just offered something cleaner, faster, and more respectful. Word spread faster than I expected. The company had grown complacent. Overpriced, understaffed. Clients had tolerated it because the alternative was to rebuild their systems from scratch. Now there was a better option. And once the first client jumped, others followed. At 3 months, I had 8 paying clients. By 6 months, 23. And by the 1-year mark, over half the client base I'd once helped build had migrated. The best part, Grant couldn't even accuse me of breach of contract. There had never been a non-compete clause. Never even a basic NDA. For a guy so protective of his company, he'd never imagined I'd be the one to walk away and rebuild everything better without him. But I wasn't interested in legal loopholes. I was interested in building something real. My clients were happy. My team was small, but sharp. And every day I woke up with purpose, not just to prove Grant wrong, but to show myself what I'd always been capable of. And yet, the revenge wasn't over. Not yet. Because while I was quietly thriving, the company was falling apart. By the time Pulsecraft hit its 1-year anniversary, things at the company were spiraling, and I didn't even have to look for the signs. The emails found me. It started with a message from an old client I hadn't spoken to since my the company days. "Hey, are you still in the business? We've been trying to get someone at the company to respond for weeks. System's been buggy. No one's answering support. Can we talk?" I didn't ask for details. I didn't badmouth my old employer. I just listened. The client explained that the interface updates had stopped, bug fixes were half done, and their renewal contract had auto-jumped 18% without notice. The kicker, their payroll data had vanished during a server update. That was Grant's idea of innovation, cutting corners, blaming legacy issues, and pretending it wasn't his fault when things exploded. Within days, they were onboarded with Pulsecraft. I restored their data from an archived the company backup. They'd exported it back when I taught them how, just in case. I rebuilt their scheduling module from scratch. They paid our full annual plan up front. Then another email came in. Then 3. Then 10. People were finally seeing what I had known all along. Grant wasn't a leader. He was a boss with a messiah complex, addicted to praise and terrified of being challenged. When I left, I took the structure with me. All that was left behind was ego and duct tape. And it was finally falling apart. About 6 months later, I ran into Lila, one of the junior employees I'd trained, at a local networking event in Aspen Falls. She looked tired, frazzled, the kind of overworked, under-respected energy I knew too well. We exchanged pleasantries for a minute, then she leaned in. "You really left at the right time." I raised an eyebrow. "That bad?" She gave a sad laugh. "Worse. Grant's still trying to act like everything's fine, but he's been through 4 hires in less than a year. Nobody stays. He's doing client onboarding himself now. I heard he even tried coding a feature last month and broke the entire invoice module." I nearly spit out my drink. Lila lowered her voice. "And between us, he's panicking. I don't think he expected you to land on your feet. He tells everyone you needed a break from tech, or that you got burned out." I smiled. "Interesting narrative. I think he's scared, she said. You built something real. People talk about it in meetings. One of our clients even called your support line while on a Zoom with us. Grant pretended not to hear it. That image nearly killed me. I thanked her, gave her a quiet tip on a better agency that was hiring, and went home feeling lighter than I had in months. The revenge was happening without me lifting a finger. No sabotage, no smear campaigns, just competence beating ego in a slow, steady burn. And it was glorious. Around that time, Pulsecraft landed its biggest client yet, a regional gym franchise expanding into 6 new cities. They needed a system that could scale fast, handle bookings, class tracking, member engagement, payroll, inventory, and automated reporting. It was everything I had tried to pitch to Grant back at the company. He'd laughed it off. Too ambitious, he'd said. We're not Google. Now I was doing it. And doing it well. When the franchise announced their expansion partnership with Pulsecraft on social media, I didn't tag anyone. I didn't throw shade, but the post blew up. People in the local scene noticed. Clients noticed. Even Lila messaged me the next day. Grant just canceled our staff meeting mid-sentence after seeing your announcement. He looked like someone kicked his cat. I didn't reply. Because by that point, I wasn't even playing the same game anymore. The company had become reactive, desperate, and petty. Pulsecraft was growing fast, fueled by trust and word of mouth. My small but mighty team, sharp, happy, and paid well. I had built the company I always wanted to work for. And Grant. He was stuck trying to rebuild the one I left behind. By year 2 of Pulsecraft, I had stopped checking in on the company completely. Not because I didn't care, but because I no longer had to. The damage had become self-sustaining. Clients were jumping ship on their own. My inbox stayed full of subject lines like, looking to migrate, frustrated with support delays, do you offer custom builds? Every week brought in new accounts, some big, some small, all with the same story. The company was falling apart. What really surprised me, though, was when former employees started reaching out. Sam, one of the few senior hires Grant had actually trusted, messaged me on LinkedIn one night. We hadn't spoken since I left. I'm not looking for gossip, he wrote, but can I be real with you for a second? I gave him the green light. The place is a mess. Half the team is gone. Clients are pissed, and Grant's blaming us for everything. He's rewriting history like you didn't build half the company's structure. I've got 3 offers on the table and I'm about to take one. Just thought you should know. People remember how you ran things. They miss it. That one hit deep, not just because it validated everything I already knew, but because it reminded me that my absence was louder than anything I could have said. Grant was learning the hard way that when you treat people like they're replaceable, you eventually find out they're not. Then came the phone call. It was a vendor I used to work with, one of the early tech partners who helped us onboard new clients when the company was small. We hadn't spoken in ages, but I always liked the guy. Hey, he said, I don't know if this is weird, but Grant's trying to poach one of your contracts. I raised an eyebrow. He reached out to you. Yeah, claimed Pulsecraft's margins are unsustainable and your tech is, just recycled the company code. I laughed. He's really grasping, huh? The vendor continued. He also said you wouldn't be around long. That your business is a bubble. That's when I paused. Because that wasn't just petty. That was panic. You don't start trash talking a competitor unless you're scared. And Grant, he was terrified. The vendor reassured me they had no plans to switch. Your team's been consistent, responsive, and fair. That's all we care about. It was a short call, but it stuck with me. Because it confirmed something I'd long suspected. I didn't have to destroy the company. Grant was doing it himself. All I'd done was give his clients, and his team, an exit sign. 6 months later, I got word that the company had closed one of its satellite offices. Lila messaged me again. Office in Southgate is empty. Cleaned out overnight. Grant hasn't said anything, but half the sales team got cut. I'm out next month. Just accepted a new offer. Thought you'd appreciate the update. I did, and I wasn't the only one watching. The Pulsecraft team celebrated quietly. No big announcement, no victory parade. Just a shared glance, a smirk, and one of our developers saying what we were all thinking. Guess being replaceable turned out pretty profitable. A few weeks after that, I was invited to speak at a regional tech leadership panel. The theme was, building a company culture that actually works. I debated saying no. I wasn't big on spotlights. But something about it felt full circle. I showed up, gave a talk about treating teams like partners, not tools. About building trust before building scale. About how revenge is best served with payroll, not pettiness. Afterward, a young founder approached me. "Your story's been floating around for a while," he said. Didn't realize it was true. I smiled. "All of it." He leaned in. "What happened to the other guy?" "The company." I shrugged. "He's still around, somewhere. But I wouldn't recommend his services." We both laughed. And in that moment, I realized something. The revenge wasn't just complete. It was legacy. Pulse Craft Systems was no longer just a startup. We were an institution. 3 years in, we had expanded to 3 time zones, hired a small but mighty remote team, and built our own proprietary backend that left the company clunky architecture in the dust. What started as a response to a slap in the face had become a movement, one built on values that the old world ignored: respect, transparency, and actual support. I didn't just want clients. I wanted community. I launched a client feedback initiative that directly informed our product roadmap. We introduced a no surprise pricing model, and our support SLA, still unbeaten in our segment. Every win came with a strange twinge of surreal pride, because I could remember pitching all of these ideas to Grant. Every single one. And every time, he'd wave them off like I was wasting breath. But I wasn't wasting breath anymore. I was building something that worked. And the clients noticed. One day, I got a handwritten thank you card from a yoga studio in Phoenix, one of the first to switch from the company to Pulse Craft. It sat on my desk for weeks. "You actually listened to us. After 5 years of being treated like an afterthought, we finally feel like a priority again. Thank you for what you've built." That line got to me more than any client retention report or quarterly profit margin ever could. Because it reminded me that revenge can turn into purpose if you hold it long enough. I'd set out to prove I wasn't replaceable. Now, I was proving I was essential. Meanwhile, Grant was still trying to patch the holes in a ship that was already underwater. Rumors swirled about investor bailouts, quiet buyout offers, a possible rebrand. Nothing stuck. A local journalist from a small business tech blog even reached out to me, looking to explore the two sides of the company split. I politely declined. Because by then, I had everything I needed. I didn't want a headline. I had a company, a team, a purpose, and Grant. He had excuses. Around that time, I started mentoring newer founders. Not in the typical tech guru kind of way. No overpriced masterminds or private Discord servers. Just one-on-one chats over Zoom, coffee meetings, and email threads where I shared the stuff I wish someone had told me when I started. How to negotiate contracts without being steamrolled, how to protect your IP without sounding paranoid, how to hire people you trust and actually treat them like humans. It felt good. More than that, it felt right. One founder I mentored launched a scheduling platform that was miles ahead of the glitchy stuff Grant used to call cutting edge. She thanked me by giving Pulse Craft a permanent discount on her API integration. "Wouldn't exist without your feedback," she told me. That was the moment I realized something. My revenge hadn't just dismantled Grant's empire. It had seeded dozens of better ones. It was never just about proving a point. It was about changing the standard. And people were noticing. Industry newsletters started referencing Pulse Craft in best of breakdowns. We landed 2 innovation grants. My team voted me CEO of the year internally, not because of our revenue, but because we still hadn't had a single resignation since the company was founded. That one hit different, because it meant I'd broken the cycle. I didn't just survive what Grant tried to do to me. I outgrew it, outbuilt it, and made sure no one who worked with me would ever be treated like I was. It came in the form of a LinkedIn notification. "Grant Carver has updated his job title." Curious, I clicked. After all, it had been nearly 4 years since I walked out of the company without a raised voice or a backward glance. His new headline: Independent Consultant, Startup Advisor, Open to Contract Work. I stared at the screen for a long time. The founder of the company, once the loudest, cockiest, most dismissive guy in the room, was no longer running his own company. He was freelancing. pitching himself, fishing for gigs. I didn't even need to dig. But I did anyway. A quick check of public business filings showed the company Solutions had officially been dissolved 3 months prior. The website redirected to a 404. The customer portal was gone. Their last tweet was over a year old. That company, the one I'd built from the inside out, the one Grant had claimed I was replaceable in, no longer existed. I took a walk around Aspen Falls that afternoon. Same streets, same coffee shop I used to stop at before the 8 a.m. stand-ups. Same place where I had sat on the patio and told my spouse, I think I'm done. Now, I was the one with a thriving company and a team that trusted me. And Grant, he was hawking his services as a startup, visionary, to anyone who'd listen. It would have been easy to screenshot his new profile. Easy to post a snarky tweet or a Reddit post titled, "Remember when my boss said I was replaceable?" He's unemployed now, but I didn't. Because by that point, I had something way better than gloating. I had closure. A few days later, I got an email from one of the company final clients, a small but well-known wellness chain that Pulsecraft had tried to onboard 2 years earlier. At the time, they'd stayed loyal to the company out of habit. Familiarity. Fear of switching. Now, they were desperate. We just lost access to all our data when their system went down. We had no warning. Can you help us restore anything? Even partial records would be better than starting from zero. I felt a chill go down my spine. They'd been burned. Badly, but I didn't say I told you so. I didn't even mention Grant. I just forwarded them to my onboarding team and made sure we built them a clean, protected system from the ground up. We waived part of the setup fee. They cried during the kickoff call. That's when I knew. The real win wasn't beating Grant. It was catching the people he dropped. It was showing them that not all businesses treat clients like afterthoughts. It was proving that people deserve more than minimum effort wrapped in fake professionalism. Months later, I bumped into Grant in person, totally by accident. It was at a local tech mixer I hadn't even planned to attend. He looked older, thinner, but still put together. He was talking to someone near the snack table when he spotted me. There was a moment, a flicker, where his whole posture shifted. Like he was debating whether to come say something. He didn't. He gave a small nod. And I returned it. Then I turned and walked away, because there was nothing left to say. He already knew. Everyone did. It's been years now since I walked out of the company with a resignation letter and a quiet promise to myself. You don't get to be treated like you don't matter ever again. I kept that promise. But what I didn't expect, what I couldn't have expected, was how far that ripple would reach. Pulsecraft Systems isn't just a company anymore. It's a standard, a blueprint, proof that people don't need to sacrifice their dignity just to survive a job. That smart, honest work built with care will always outlast short-sighted ego. We built a team where no one ever says, I'm just the, because everyone matters. Interns, engineers, support staff, clients. We listen, we adjust, we learn, and in doing that, we've attracted the kind of loyalty money can't buy. The best revenge wasn't crushing the company. It was replacing it, and doing it better, cleaner, and with a hell of a lot more heart. One morning, I was reviewing a quarterly impact report. Nothing fancy, just team stats, customer wins, milestone markers, and I noticed something small at the bottom. A note from one of our newest hires. I used to think working in tech meant always being one misstep away from being fired. Pulsecraft changed that for me. I've never felt safer, more respected, or more valuable anywhere else. Thank you. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Because once upon a time, I was them. I had built systems, trained teams, grown revenue, and still got told I was more replaceable than my peers. Now, I was irreplaceable on my own terms. People ask me if I ever miss working at the company. I don't. Not even for a second. Because I remember what it felt like to walk into that office every day knowing that no matter how hard I worked, no matter how much I gave, it would never be enough for someone like Grant. He didn't see people. He saw tools. And tools break. But people. People build. People learn. People grow. If you give them the space, and the respect, they'll build something that leaves your ego in the dust. And that's what I did. I still keep the resignation letter. Not out of spite. Not even as a trophy. But as a reminder. That the story didn't end when I left the company. That's when it started. And if anyone out there is sitting in an office right now being told they're replaceable, let me say this. You are not. You're just building your exit strategy. And one day, the person who said that to you, they'll look up from a sad little desk in a company they don't even own anymore, and realize you were the whole damn foundation.